is way to play the BrintBrush of YouTube. Balan Wonderworld doesn't get enough love. So what am I going to do? I'm gonna watch people review the game. And then I'm gonna talk about my thoughts on it. Because I want to see just how fair or unfair these reviews are. I'm doing this to myself. No one else told me to do this. Some people even said you probably shouldn't do it. But here I am, wasting time instead of playing something like Pilot Wing 64 or Fall Guys or some other thing that probably you would rather see me do. But here we go. We'll start off with the Balan Wonderworld. We'll start with the IGN one first. So, let's see what you guys say, IGN.
It's sad to say, but I've gotten used to disappointment when it comes to spiritual successors to iconic games made by their original creators.
That
means I'm disappointed, but not surprised to tell you that Balan Wonderworld, the latest 3D platformer from Sonic the Hedgehog co-creators Yuji Naka and Naoto Oshima, is a fundamentally flawed shadow of its predecessors. Its character designs, cutscenes, and music are certainly charming, but charm alone isn't enough to make this half-baked platformer any less boring to actually play. This is usually the part where I'd break down Balan Wonderworld's story for you, but there's not much to tell about the unexplained nonsense it calls a plot. You play as a child who's quickly abducted by a magical top hat man and dropped into a dreamland full of weird birds. That's all the setup you get before it starts parading you through 12 visually varied worlds, each structured around some troubled person introduced through brief but genuinely energetic and entertaining cutscenes. That could be a boy trying to build a flying machine, or a girl whose dolphin friend seemingly maimed her and left her to die. The problem is that their introductory cutscenes are held until the very end of each world, right before a boss, with another immediately resolving their issue right after. Aw, see, he feels bad about hurting her. That pacing makes the levels you play before them disjointed and devoid of context, and turns Balan Wonderworld into little more than a jumble of endearing but incoherent ideas.
Well, the world comes first. That's what I think.
The festering rot at the heart of Balan Wonderworld, though, is the inexplicable decision to make it a one-button game. Apart from using the shoulder buttons to swap between 3 ability-altering costumes, every button does the same thing. Even in the dang menus where you literally can't even press B or circle to go back. Out of costume, that button is an underwhelming jump, but each of the more than 80 available outfits alter that function. For example, a jack-o'-lantern costume will make you punch instead, while a sheep suit lets you hover, and the visual variety and design of them is at least decently amusing. But Balan Wonderworld doesn't provide a single good reason for why it restricts itself to just one button, and it prevents many costumes from even being able to jump, the most basic of platforming actions. Those built around jumping work alright, but others range from perplexing to downright awful as a result. Things like an exploding clown or a flower that stretches upward a bit are borderline useless. Others might be able to jump, but potentially at the cost of their ability only activating when standing still. Or worse, there are a few costumes like the truly baffling Box Fox, which will turn you into a cube, and I quote, when it feels like it. Like, what? Just give me 2 buttons instead.
It's part of the puzzle dynamic.
Because taking damage means your costume is removed too, you can often lose the one ability you need to progress or reach a statue, Balan Wonderworld's equivalent of Mario's stars. That leaves you with no option but to tediously backtrack and grab another copy of that outfit, which are locked behind purple gems whose keys are always just a couple steps away. That gives unlocking them all the thrill of playing hide and seek with a 4-year-old.
Really? Really?
Balan
Wow,
Wonderworld
I take
frequently
offense
seems
to
to
that
ignore
one.
the fundamentals of the platforming genre, largely foregoing
Some of
the
these
usual
are
structure of
hard to
introducing a
find.
mechanic and then building more
Not a lot of
interesting and
them,
challenging
but
sections out of it as you progress.
a good
Instead,
chunk at
costumes
the
are generally
very
used for
end.
their simplest function a few times and then tossed aside shortly after. They'll occasionally be needed in other worlds to access optional bits that are rarely worth the effort, but nearly every obstacle is just a matter of having the right costume ability or not. Perhaps most clearly illustrated by this ladder guy, who can make ladders on a handful of ladder spots. Exciting, right? This constant churn of only the most basic ideas left me bored and unengaged for all of the roughly 9 hours it took me to reach the credits. The one place this trend is ever so slightly bucked is in its bosses, which flaunt Balan Wonderworld's knack for neat character designs. Bosses followed the cookie-cutter 3-hit formula to beat, but there are actually 3 different ways to deal damage, be it stomping on their toe or dropping a pillar on their head. Each one you figure out and use earns you a statue, which makes them more like an action puzzle. Dodging their attacks and hitting back is still incredibly basic and sometimes annoyingly unintuitive, but these bosses are at least more creative than the levels themselves. Between those levels, you return to a pointless garden hub full of pointless birds. For anyone hoping this green-hilled zone is comparable to the Sonic Adventure series' adorable Chow Garden, it's not even close. There's very little interaction with these bird blobs beyond feeding them crystals to make them spin a wheel that ticks up a counter. The feeding process is tedious too, since throwing out too many at once will cause others to despawn, and the structures that are built as a result seem entirely superfluous. With zero motivation to do this busy work, I eventually stopped caring about collecting crystals during levels. And when the main collectible of your 3D platformer becomes more trouble than it's worth, that's a pretty catastrophic breaking point.
Technically, the main collectible are the statues. You can't
Balan Wonderworld isn't always an awful platformer, but it is a consistently boring one. It's full of charming character designs, fun music, and the occasional hint of a clever idea, but its insistence on being a one-button game with a needless number of underwhelming abilities rots it to the core. Its level design never really evolves beyond the most rudimentary obstacles, but it's the fundamentally flawed choices behind that mediocrity that take Balan Wonderworld from bland to outright bad.
Well,
be sure to head over to IGN.com to read my full written review.
Thoughts and feelings about it. Some of the criticism he said is fair, and I do agree with, while others just, I don't know, I feel like it's a little hard on it. But then there's Nintendo World Report TV, who just already downright says it's bad.
After many hours, Balan Wonderworld remains a mystery to me. It clearly has modern influences, most obviously Super Mario Odyssey in its ability-swapping mechanics, and yet it either wildly misunderstands them or simply takes glee in ignoring key elements. It's backed by the monolithic Square Enix, and yet the Switch version in particular feels like a poorly funded indie title that is overstretching a lone developer. At times, you catch a glimpse of what seems remarkably close to a vision for the game, yet equally common is the nagging feeling that you've fallen victim to a scam. The more I played, the more I began to think the latter was the case. Balan Wonderworld is a 3D platformer that has a plot of some sort. The opening cutscene reveals a child who is sad. They meet the titular Balan, who is a strange, often floating, top hat wearing person, and together they set off on a quest that is occasionally theater themed and might also be a musical. Balan gives you access to what I assume are the subconsciouses of people who have either been possessed by evil, murdered by a dolphin, or are just generally bummed out. Across 2 levels and a boss fight, you'll save this person. As the game went on, my wife and I began to suspect that the people you were rescuing were in fact dead, and Balan was some sort of guardian of limbo. Your actions were then obviously intended to help these people move on. The girl who was murdered by her possessed dolphin is the most obvious evidence of this being the plot. When the dolphin murders her, it knocks off her scuba gear, thus the death. When you complete her levels, you then see her swimming under the ocean with the dolphin again, but now she no longer needs the breathing apparatus because she's already dead. And I dare anyone to tell me that that isn't the plot of Balan Wonderworld. The primary hook, or harpoon, or whatever the most threatening sharp device you don't want to be hit by, of Balan Wonderworld is the costume system. Across each stage, you'll encounter costumes sealed in boxes that require a key to open. Usually the key is right next to them, so it's not really clear why you need a key, but you need a key, so just go get the key. Each costume has an ability, and only one ability. Outside of pausing and switching costumes, every button on the controller does the same thing. Whatever action is associated with your current costume. For some of them, it may involve jumping. For others, it will be something that super isn't jumping. Occasionally, you'll find yourself in a position where you really need to jump to move forward or go back, but have managed to be in possession of no costumes that can jump. Whoops! I guess you better go die. Yay, video game. If you're lucky, you'll be within range of a checkpoint, where if you stand very still for a long time, you'll be given the option to switch to any other extra costumes you have. You're never told you can do this, by the way, and are most likely to find it as you take a moment standing on a checkpoint to just sort of weep softly as you question your life choices and the fact that you're playing Balan Wonderworld. With a pedigree rich in Sega and Sonic the Hedgehog lineage, Balan Wonderworld does at least carry with it some of that 90s Sega-style charm. Levels are varied thanks to the different costumes native to each, and can visually be quite endearing. The music, outside of the fever dream musical numbers when you rescue a character,
No ads in my review.
Yeah, other than that, it's quite good, and probably a highlight of the entire experience. Most of the level design itself is perfectly passable. The presentation might normally allow me to gloss over some otherwise rough edges, but unfortunately the Switch manages to run precisely none of it. Every time you switch costumes, the frame rate stutters. Every time enemies spawn in, it freezes up entirely for a second or two. Just moving through the level can cause debilitating performance drops that have caused me to completely lose control of my character on multiple occasions. Each level contains several Balan statues. These are the prime MacGuffin of Balan's Wonderworld. You'll be able to get a few on your first run through, but most require revisiting the stage with costumes from other stages. These aren't open levels in the vein of 3D Mario either, but rather a linear point A to point B with statues hidden along the way. When you hit the point in the stage to get a statue, you need to already be fully equipped. At this point, you better hope you've stumbled into the costume swap on checkpoints, otherwise some of these are borderline impossible to reach. But here's the thing, even if you know exactly which costume you need and you have that costume unlocked, that doesn't guarantee you'll be able to use it. In order to switch to a costume, you need to have extras of it in your stockpile. For that to happen, a costume needs to get knocked off your list of up to 3 costumes that can be in your inventory at once by finding a new costume, sending it into your stockpile. If you don't already have the costumes you need stockpiled, then you literally have to go back to a stage and grind for costumes. This requires you to go to the stage that contains the costume you want, get a key, because you have to have a key, unlock the costume box with the key, go back to where the key was, and wait for it to respawn, then take the key back to the box, wait for the box to respawn, and continue this pattern until you feel you have enough costumes built up that hopefully you'll never have to do this again. Besides the Balan statues, across each level are various colored gems. After completing a level, you bring these back to the Chow Garden-esque hub world. Here, you can use the colored gems to build up the Tower of Tims. What's a Tim? I'm so glad you asked, and I wish you knew, but they're apparently these things. Tims eat gems, then go to the place where the gems are turned in and deposit them for you. Oh, you thought you could deposit the gems yourself? No! That would be ridiculous. You need to feed the Tims your gems from specific locations in the hub world that are all as far away from the deposit point as possible. Each colored gem has specific points it can be fed to the Tims from. And if you thought you could just drop them and go, you'd be wrong, because of course you would. The Tims take a long time to eat all the gems, and if there are too many gems and not enough Tims, then the gems will despawn after a while, meaning you won't be able to unlock another section of the Tower of Tims, and that would be a disaster. So you'll need to wait at each drop-off point, carefully monitoring the consumption of gems by the Tims, picking back up any that are about to despawn, then putting them back out when the Tims are ready, before finally moving on to the next color. And if you're a rational person, you'll do this between every stage, because video games have broken you. Balan Wonderworld will leave you with a sense of wonder. A nagging sort of wonder, the kind of wonder that makes you wonder. Wonder how a game could so masterfully miss literally every opportunity to treat its players with a modicum of respect. Wonder how a very well-known publisher could stomach having it in their library. What in the world happened with the Switch version, and wonder where your $60 went.
I wonder why you didn't try the demo first. Boom! That's not proper. No, I already watched that. Can I find a more positive Wonderworld thing before I, go back to something worse? Let's see. I'm gonna say no. Oh. Well, I'll say this much. I hope Gerard the Completionist gives it a chance. He supported Ukulele when other people didn't. Okay, I'm going to go with Some Call Me Johnny this time.
Thanks to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. Oh, you thought Raycon was gone for good from this channel.
Sometimes.
No, it's been a bit, so let's refresh. Raycon's like their everyday E25 lineup, are quality Bluetooth earbuds that not only start at about half the price compared to other premium earbuds out there, they sound just as good. And you don't just...
This. There we go. Good start.
Hey Rose, how's it going?
Hi John.
Just to thank you for being with me for my last
You
review.
damn well needed me here for
Yeah,
this
I
one.
can barely hear
As I said
that.
in the round 2 video, in case you missed that one, I am currently in the middle of my move to Georgia. All my stuff's already packed and it's on its way to Georgia, but right, because I have to meet sponsor deadlines and all that sort of thing, I have to still crank out some videos, but I have very limited tech, so I'm using my iPhone to record us, the microphone, all that sort of thing, and we're in my living room. This game was revealed in July of 2020. It was the first time Yuji Naka and Naoto Oshima were joining forces, collaborating with something since Sonic Adventure, and that was in 1998. Because beforehand, those two were together all the time for the classic Sonic stuff. You know, and people were seeing Yuji Naka attached to this, and that's probably what everyone kept asking me about. I was like, oh, like the Sonic guy.
Bump up
like,
the volume.
Well, the Sonic guy were a lot of people, so it wasn't just Yuji Naka. It was Sonic Team. You know, it's exactly team. Yuji Naka was a phenomenal program. I'm not going to take it away from him. I was like, I need a little more than that to just go into wanting to review this. But the combination of him with Naoto Oshima was captivating because you see it as soon as the trailer or the character designs of Balan himself looks straight out of Nights.
Absolutely.
You know, it is classic Naoto Oshima.
And not just that, but the mannerisms.
Yes.
The very like free-spirited, the performance aspect. You know, Knights as a character was, an acrobat. That's exactly what it was. So
it's funny because like regardless of what we're gonna say today, and there's a lot we're gonna say today, I think anyway, I have to give it to them for committing to the presentation in all aspects, for better and or worse. But
yes.
like on the better side of it, and this kind of caught me off guard. I think we still have it in here. So we are talking about the PS4 version, by the way. There's one thing I can tell you right now is don't get it on the Switch. I bought it new on PS4, and it comes with this. This is a ticket to
the
theater
Switch
in the game.
in every one of these
I guess people
reviews
go
one
when they
day.
have depression or some other thing.
You might have not helped
you know,
that I
it's signed
played
by
it for
Balan
my
in the back.
channel,
We're not
but
too sure
I
about
didn't know.
Yeah, we might have been making that up, but it looks like a general admission ticket, and I like that. A lot of games could do with something like that. You just have like a little memorabilia attached to the game. That's not even part of like a limited edition collector's item. Like you would see this stuff in a deluxe edition. It's just part of the game. So kudos to that. That's about one of the only positives I gotta say about the game. Yuji Naka is now officially part of Square Enix, because beforehand he left Sega. He was one of the last few people of Sonic Team to leave Sega in the early 2000s, because I think it was him and Naoto Oshima left. Not around the same time, but close to the same time.
Yeah.
And after that, he just kind of went and did his own thing. He was basically a producer for a lot of other games. But, you know, Yuji Naka's resume as a director or a producer, most likely, is impressive. You know, we mentioned Sonic earlier. There was Nights into Dreams, which is another Sonic Team endeavor. Burning Rangers for the Sega Saturn. It's considered one of the best games on the console, if not one of the most expensive. Billy Hatcher, which I looked at already. It's mediocre, but, you know, people have... It's kind of a cult classic.
I know Billy Hatcher more
I
than I
thought
know
he had some involvement with
Rangers.
Rodea the Sky Soldier as a director.
Although I
think he
know
produced that.
Burning
Yes.
Rangers
The only thing
from
I
one
only
of the
know about Rodea the
courses
Sky Soldier
on
is a weird
Sonic
little
and
tidbit.
Sega All-Stars
The Wii
Racing
U version
Transform.
came with the Wii version as well.
I've
So
never
if you
even
bought it
seen
on
the
the Wii U,
game
it also had a
case
copy
until
of the
now.
Wii version, which was the
Yeah.
better version of the game.
The Wii version, because it was made for the Wii, really.
Okay.
And for some reason, whenever they brought it over the Wii U...
We're sorry.
Pretty much, yeah. It was the apology, like, here you go.
There was also, this is how it's written, Ivy the Kiwi. That's how the title is spelled. There's a question mark at the end of Kiwi, as if
Kiwi?
he's not sure. And I don't like it when titles are insecure about themselves, because you're sending me mixed signals.
You need to...
Yeah, exactly.
stand up.
You are a Kiwi.
Be counted.
I think it was a little bird.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the hell it was about. Because this was, I think Ivy the Kiwi came out like when a lot of mobile games were starting to take
like
off.
the art style.
Like Jetpack Rocket. Like
I
Jetpack Joyride.
played the
something
game,
like
but I
that.
like the
Like
art
Angry Birds.
style.
And maybe that's what they were trying to ape off at the time, but I know next to nothing about it. I just know that Yuji Naka had involvement for that one.
Sure.
But besides that, I think that was like one of the last things he did as like a solo developer, because starting in the late 2010s, he became a part of Square Enix. He now works for Square Enix.
Interesting.
And for his first endeavor, he was told to produce a platforming game because of prior history. Okay, that's smart. However, he was also told this was the only chance he would get for making a platforming game. And I read that little tidbit, you know, because I do research for these videos, and I think it was in an interview, he said that this was the only chance he got for a platforming game. I'm not sure if like the only chance he got for as a developer for the game, but shit.
Seriously,
Okay, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Where
more
do we
support.
begin, honestly? Because we're gonna get into the fact that this game is $60 fucking dollars. It's not worth $60.
No.
It is not worth $60. It's not even worth $50. Don't even spend $30 on this one. This is a very budgeted game that is 10 hours long, I would say. Like solo or co-op. It is some of the most repetitious thing you can ever experience for the era that it was released in, let's put it that way. Obviously, when I do these reviews, we start with story. There is no story.
No,
there really is no story. The game begins with these two kids. Again,
The
struggling with
story
the
is
Knights
about
references.
the characters.
We start with two kids. There's a boy named Leo.
About the
There's a girl named
kids.
Emma.
About the
And
ones
Leo
the
Craig,
kids
Emma
are
Cole.
helping
We
out.
picked Leo. We picked co-op, but because player
Each
one
story
was
is
Leo,
individual.
we got Leo's side of the story.
In a
We didn't
sense,
see the
there
Emma
are
cutscene.
14 different stories.
But Leo breakdances, I'm
So-
guessing.
Yeah.
And
or performs
performance
dances,
artist.
something.
He's a performance artist.
Yeah.
Doing
Doing some dances and all that sort of thing, and then he has like two other friends or strangers that
Again,
they just don't get it.
Not clear.
Not
It's
clear.
There's just two people. As far as I took it as two bystanders that were just at a park. He was
Yeah.
doing a breakdance thing. They gave him like a attaboy, good job after he finished a move, and he was just sort of like, psh.
Yeah,
And-
it's like
So they automatically say, okay, you have a protagonist in the game,
game, and then
and
maybe
that's how you start
no
him off.
more.
He's already a jerk. I don't
Yeah.
want to play as him. Like,
but it's enough to send him to the theater, because So in this game, Balan Wonderworld, which I want to keep calling it Wonderland. It's not. It's Wonderworld.
Thank you.
When you are
Thank you.
going
I'm
through
not
a
the
set
only
of heavy
person.
emotions.
Thank
Okay,
you.
this is all I'm just taking from the game. You are allowed to gain access to this theater that's run by Balan, and it could be for different reasons we're going to get into. What was this? Was he just stressed out? Was he bummed? Was he depressed?
The way that it sounds like the game, they don't really get into that.
Yeah.
It's just that he was ignoring the feelings of other people's hearts is what I kind of got out of it.
Right.
Very Kingdom Hearts, in a way. But it's very unclear. And again, if anyone is a Knights aficionado who's ever played those games, it's also kind of unclear in a lot of ways. You have a structure there, but the story's kind of up to you to kind of make up as you go along, I guess. But it's not even. It doesn't let you do that.
No. And on Emma's side, I had to look this up. She's apparently anxious about what her friends might be saying to her behind her back. That's relatable.
Sure.
Sure. And I'll say right
that
now,
is great.
I'll say, for that age range especially, I will say that there are a lot of characters you meet in this game through the chapters, and some of them have very relatable conundrums in terms of emotional duress. Mm-hmm. But it's so disjointed. And nothing is ever fully fleshed out because the game just wants to run through the motions. It's very formulaic.
It has a structure. It has I think formula is exactly the right word for it. It has this formula, and it sticks to it. And there's nothing at any point that changes the formula or flips it or anything like that.
There is a rival character to Balan in this game. Who knows shit, but we didn't even know the character's name.
Not even a clue. No.
None of that is ever explained. He's just there.
His name is Lance. Your ticket.
Lance.
The rival character's name is Lance.
Oh wow.
And that's it.
They never said that he never got a title card or not,
and if they did, I don't remember it at all. There was so much that is just skimmed over. Not
title
connected.
card probably would have been nice.
Where it just doesn't matter. But what if I told you
any of the characters
there is a solution to this problem? There was a novel released for this game.
Really? I did not know that.
A novel tie-in that came out the same day this game was released.
Do I need that ticket to buy the novel? Or
no. Yeah, no. It's a digital-only purchase.
Ah, of course.
So I guess you just take the ticket and just rub it on the iPhone screen?
Yeah.
It's like, I bought the game. I spent $60. Can I get that?
Give me something.
That novel better be free. If there is a way you can prove that you bought this game, that novel should come with the game. But apparently, from what I understand,
that would be
I didn't
nice,
read
though.
it. Okay. The novel goes into the backstory of every character you see in the game.
Really?
Who the kids are, who Balan is, who Lance is, their motivations, their arcs, basically. You have to buy the novel to get the story of the game instead of just getting it in the game itself. That you spent $60.
So why play?
Yeah, I know, because I have a feeling that
makes me angry. Actually,
I have a feeling that Yuji Naka and his philosophy was, because this is a guy who made a lot of games that never were really story-centered. It was very arcade in nature. Sonic Knights.
Yeah.
There were setups, but that was it. They were just the foundations. Go fly around and parallel, and that's fine. Be reality beat wise
for everything else.
I think because
you can find it in the
worked
book.
with Square Enix, who always had more focus on the story, because they're the Final Fantasy guys, they're the RPG guys. There needs to be a story. Yeah. You know exactly right. We're talking about novel tie-ins. I just reviewed Final Fantasy II, which is a 1989 game that had a novel tie-in that did more about the story. But that was excusable back then.
Yeah,
because that was an NES game.
Exactly.
They still got something done to their credit, but it's more excusable then. I think he just wanted to make a game as close to nice or as simplistic as his other formulaic designs as possible, and then he was told he had to put a story to it. He couldn't be bothered. It was like, I don't want to. I really don't want to.
And I mean, here's the thing: you can get away with not having a story in a platform too. You can make it save the princess, whatever.
Mario.
Yeah,
Mario still does it. Mario still does it today.
Yes. What, 35
years?
35 years.
35, and fortunately not anymore because he's dead.
Yeah, he died. The opening cinematic after that, whatever happened, that was pretty cool. And what they do something really cool with the male and the female character, with Rio and Emma. They kind of show both sides, but it's just at that one point they do it, which is kind of silly when I was thinking about this, but it's a really cool opening production number.
Yeah.
And put the band in there, and got everything, and we are introduced to Balan.
Yeah. And again, I cannot deny that the game's presentation has style. You know, there is...
Absolutely.
It oozes. It reminded me a lot of that mid to late 90s Sega flair. It's a small thing, but one thing that I thought that caught me off guard, going back into the characters and all that, because when you begin the game, you can choose between Leo and Emma, and you can choose between like 4 different variants of Leo and Emma, like different hairstyles. You want the blonde hair with blue eyes, or you want black Leo, or you want red-haired Leo. There are different FMVs for those color tones.
Sure,
like they went out of their way to make different FMVs for those color tones, and I felt that you don't really see that detail.
True.
For full motion videos, anyways, like it's one and done. It's always the default is always going to be blonde hair, blue-eyed Leo, because that's all the money we had. But they went out of their way to make different FMVs for that, and that's respectable.
Sure.
Again, I will not knock the presentation of the game. The game as a whole looks fine. It is these 2 characters, Leo and Emma, that you're controlling throughout the entire game. But unlike Knights, which you would think they would do because the game draws so much from it,
into the controls.
You are never in control of Balan himself. Balan is a background character in his own game.
Yeah.
And
except through QuickTime events.
Yeah. But the character himself, the one that likely enticed you to purchase the game because of just how cool the character is. This character's design elicits so much suave. Exactly.
I
oh
can
my
see
God,
it.
yeah.
You know, I got a lot of
Usually
Knights,
you see
like
the
Michael
character
Jackson,
on the front
a
of the
lot
box.
of
It's like, hey,
again,
I can
mid to
play that
late 90s
character.
flair. I want
So
to buy.
see
I am
that.
interested in purchasing this game because I'm interested in controlling this character and seeing what he can do. That never happens. Never happens, not once in the game. There is never a point where Leo and Emma act as vehicles to get to the character, like in
Balan
Knights.
costumes.
The game is just the 2 kids. The only time you control Balan is during these QTEs where you see these golden hats every once in a while, and you're just timing a button press. You're matching the silhouette to the character himself, and you're trying to get excellent scores to get a golden trophy, which is the collectibles of the game. That is the only time in the game you influence Balan's character, and even then, not really, because those QTEs are fixed.
Yeah, they happen anyway.
They happen anyway. It doesn't matter if you hit the buttons or not. The FMV, the video will play itself because it's just a matter of if you time the button press enough. If you hit excellent, that's great. If you didn't hit it at all, you get oops. But the game acts as if you press something anyway, you know. And Balan will punch those rocks. He will give Lance a double axe handle, you know, and he will zip through and break that same goal thing. It is the most baffling thing about Balan, is that at no point you get to control this awesome looking character who oozes so much personality, even if in a game that has no story. He just looks fun to be around. Even at some points, gets a little stalkerish. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
You get the FMVs of all these characters that you're helping through the game. At some points, he's just a witness. Maybe
the whole time he's a witness.
Maybe he's an enabler for not exactly stopping these problems that folks are happening. And folks got a lot of issues in this game. I kind of found it a little fun to play, like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Yeah.
Like, where in the world
Can you find him in
you find Balan in this shot? I think he's in every FMV. In the background.
I did not see that one.
Like, it's obvious at the ending because he'll just like look at the camera, something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, my job here is done, despite the fact that he didn't
do anything.
But in the beginning FMV, I found it a little fun to see if you can spot Balan. Can you find him anywhere? Because I got to get something out of this game. But
that was about it though.
Yeah. So it's just the 2 kids are controlling the whole thing, and we talk about the setup for their characters. The girl with the social anxiety and the guy who I guess
is a
bigger. He's like the Jeb Bush. Please clap. And nothing ever follows up with that. But the rest of the game is not working on their personal issues. It's solving the issues of everybody else. Who.
So this is the formula. All right. So you get, after the intro cutscene, you're dropped off into this hub world. Which again, I mean, I hate to keep making Knights comparisons, but like. Literally, this is
can't be helped.
It's what it is. It's just what it is. Knights. So when Knights was, back 95, 96, when Knights and Dreams came out, one of the really cool things about Knights was the A-Life system, and they had this like whole, and it was completely optional. But all of these like little side characters, which are called the Knightopians, had like it was like kind of like a CPU running them basically.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was like kind of revolutionary because these things were doing things in the background. You can have things happen in the game by getting them to like paralooping certain ones together or paralooping them with like the Night Marins, and there's different things you could do. In Balan, we get to Balan, and then it's the same thing. You have this like these things called Tims.
Yeah.
Again, completely optional, but there's a lot of way. If you would like to waste your time, I have no better way for you than to sit there and let the Tims do their thing, because that is what you do. You come to your hub world, and there's these little guys, these little fluffy creatures running around, and you start off making this like theme park style thing.
I guess.
Right in the,
it's a really elaborate birdhouse.
Basically.
Yeah.
And these things will go through it, and every time they go through it, this counter ticks up, and you'll see a thing in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen that you want to, get to certain numbers on it, which get exponentially high. And then every time you get to that number, more of the park is built. You just sit there.
We made it a point. We made it. I think it was after session 4 where we made it a point. I don't want to watch or waste any more time on this.
So, okay, can't be Balan. Not Balan, cool guy. You're at least 2 kids. So what do these kids do, right? So the game features, I think it's 80 or maybe a few more, but it's at least 80 costumes that are available to find in these levels. Just like Journey of Dreams, you get a key to get into these little capsule things to get said costumes. And each costume gives you a new ability. One of the very first ones, we're not giving too much away. If you're trying to play the game,
we're going to be spoiling everything. Yeah. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to really talk much about as far as that's concerned anyway. But anyway, first costume you get, it's just like almost like bear or like
it's like a wolf.
Yeah, wolf suit, and you get this ability to do this like tornado jump attack thing. Every costume gives you one move, and every character, including your 2 kids, does one move, whether it's jump or attack or a jump and attack.
One of the first things I did when I played this game, when I had started the game up, because I do this for every game that I do, is that I paused it and I looked at the controls because I want to know what does what.
That was a quick look through.
There was only one button in Balan Wonderworld, and they all do the same thing. Like, you can move, but the only other button is jump.
Action.
The
action button, basically, yeah.
Yeah. Every button, the face buttons, the trigger buttons, I'm pretty sure L3 and R3, if they allowed it, do the same thing.
So.
And I collectively sighed so hard because I knew exactly where that was going. And sure enough, it hits you super early. Because there are some costumes, I should say, that have a specific ability and only that specific ability. Projectile characters, for the most part, allow you to shoot something. It could be bullets, tornadoes, whatever it is. However, because there is only one action button, that action button is dedicated to that costume's quirk. So if it shoots, that's all they can do. They can't even jump. You cannot jump in a platformer game.
Puzzle.
So then, you topple this. No, again, John and I did co-op for this.
Yeah, it's not a normal platform.
The co-op system for this is, again, very strange. It's supposed to have like split screen or...
Which is what it should have been.
Would have been a lot easier.
Yes.
Would have been a lot better.
Which is what it should have been. I want to say this right now. Avoid co-op like the plague.
Yes.
There are advantages to co-op, which we'll get into. But it is the bubonic plague for the most part.
You can break it.
Yeah. The co-op in this game is absolutely ass.
Okay.
For a lot of reasons, for a lot of stupid reasons, but for a lot of reasons that will make me. You can tell him. There are points where I want to strangle him.
It wasn't my fault.
And it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. It's just the way the game is designed. And those that follow me for a long time knows how much I hate having control ripped away from me. If I'm not in 100% of control of my actions, I get really fucking pissed.
So, to drill down into this, so if your characters touch, you are linked. You will walk together, and
it's Siamese twins, basically.
Literally, yes.
You join at the hip.
Basically, what happens is I will just relinquish control at that point, because since Sean's player 1, I just kind of relinquish control. However, like if you jump on a platform that's not quite big enough, and my character goes flying down. Or he tries to grab another costume, but it's a little bit too far to the left or right, and that's where I'm at. So I get the costume, which would be fine, but I can't keep my freaking costumes.
Yeah, this is a very...
After the level is over.
Co-op is not only
that is true.
awful, but it is clearly an afterthought, because player 2, for no reason that I can discern,
that could be patched.
Gets cucked so unnecessarily. A big thing about costumes in this game, for player 1 specifically, is that there's over 80 of them. We can talk about like the logistics of that later, but you are meant to collect these costumes as you're playing through the game, not just to get through the challenge currently ahead of you, but to keep them for future use so that you can revisit older stages and get trophies you couldn't get before, because some of them are just out of reach and you don't have power-ups available to you at that time. That's classic 3D platforming design. Sure, that's fine. However, that is only possible because you are allowed to keep your costumes after you finish a world. Player 1 gets this luxury. Player 2 does not. Every time we entered a new stage, player 2 starts from square one. Every single time. Which makes the other issue of them keeping costumes for future use another big issue.
Yeah.
Because we don't understand exactly how that worked.
For one thing, too, you can collect more than one of the same costume. Which, okay, so say you take a hit, which, again, one hit, costume goes away.
You get hit, you lose your costume. Mm-hmm. The costumes act as a hit point, but the costume, they're basically like Mario power-ups, basically.
Yeah.
But Mario power-ups were always a bonus.
Yes.
In their
games. They weren't the point of the game.
They weren't the point of the game. The costumes are a point of the game. You can't beat the game without the costumes. You need costumes to get through the game. So what happens is you get hit, you lose your costume. It's not just a matter of getting another costume, because they're not as plentiful as question mark blocks. There's also the matter of you getting the key for that box too.
Which is typically somewhere right next to the
Most
cage.
of the time, like 80% of the time, the key to unlock those boxes are literally a stepping stone away. Mm-hmm. So what's the point?
Just to give you something else you have to collect before you open them, I guess. But yeah, for player 2 though, I can't keep a costume. So then late game, we're trying to collect costumes so we can, finish the game, because you need to be able to do that. And then, we're conjoined twins at the hip, we're running together, and then he's a little too far to the left, and he gets the thing, and I get the costume, which completely wastes the entire reason we revisited the level, because I can't give it to him, I can't keep the costume.
Any costume.
That's just
it was a waste of time.
It's completely.
There were times that we had to wait by the costume spawn point for it to respawn, which didn't always happen. I'm guessing maybe there's a limit.
But that's one way you can save those costumes.
Replenish your resources, God forbid.
Well, the thing you need to play the game. So this game that you can only do one action anyway. To do any of the other actions that you need these things for, they lock them behind a number. So that's the thing.
This game is not just the epitome, the definition
it's not perfect,
of repetition.
Like I said.
It is also just a slog.
It's mind-numbing.
It is mind-numbing. We joked about this. I wanted to put the game down 2-3 hours in, because at that point I realized this is it.
That's all there is to the game.
This is all there is to the game.
And
it begins, progresses, and ends the same for each chapter, the exact same way. The characters that you rescue help in therapy, because that's what it is. They have different problems concerning different emotional duresses. Like we were talking about that earlier, how it could be relatable to that, even in unintentional ways.
Sure.
Because you have something like the clown who wants to ask this girl out, the princess that wants to ask her out, but he's nervous about it. Because who isn't?
Yeah.
This is your first time.
That's your first date or something like that. Okay.
Then you have not Elsa, like the Ice Queen.
Yeah.
Who loses her parents. It's really sudden, oh shit. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is whether or not she just doesn't answer her loved one's texts or scam likely.
She's afraid to fall in love, so she ices her heart up. I think.
Maybe.
Who knows?
It was really sudden to see those 2 funeral coffins.
Yeah, that was...
but that doesn't really mean anything. The girl that loses her cat. And now I guess she hates traffic lights or some other shit. I don't know. It's really unclear because sometimes the themes don't play up for the emotions.
So listen, that's just a callback to Nights, because when you're driving around, there's that one stage where they're in the dream and there's this traffic lights. This girl's clearly scared of traffic lights. That's all it is.
The level design is sometimes reflective of that character's psyche. Okay, that's a good way of putting it. Psyche. Because I was reminded of Psychonauts. I don't know if you ever played Psychonauts.
I have. I have.
That was also Psychonauts is a better Balan Wonderworld. Just play Psychonauts instead. But no matter the emotional state of being. No matter the character that you're helping, it always begins with like you getting some sort of preemptive chapter title, gives you some idea of what you might expect. Then you get an FMV of the character in question. You get your not Knight's boss, and then it ends with a song and dance number. The same sort of ending for all of these characters, even for some that don't really deserve it, like the chess master, who's literally
he's mad because he
lost the game.
Well, I guess the idea behind it was he's no like, and the title kind of says it, but he's no longer like the champ. He's like the chess champion, and like now he's not the champion anymore. But exactly, like
you lost.
Like the way they portray it in the game is he loses to a younger student.
No, he lost to a rival. He lost. He wasn't even a younger kid. It was a rival. It was the rival looked as old as he was.
Yeah, maybe it was. Again, but I took a little bit different.
But it's like we gotta help this. No, you fucking lost, Bobby. It's like I called him Bobby Fischer. But it's like, who fucking cares? You lost the game.
Yeah. I mean, you should know in chess.
Then it goes into, like he gets a song and dance number as if we conquered his emotions. Like, did we? We just told him don't be a sore loser. Do a little song and dance, and then it ends with him teaching a younger generation of chess players. But that wasn't what the story was going into. It was more like he was angry that he lost the game, not the fact that
it was strange.
Not the fact that it was a kid that beat him.
Yeah.
It was just that he lost the game.
Yeah. It was. Yeah,
I like where do you go from here?
Yeah. And again, that was actually one of the levels I really like, design wise and stuff. I actually really liked going through. But the story of it was just like,
it was just all over. But a lot of them are. Well, a lot of them are nonsensical. I think it's a good way of putting it. Nonsensical, disjointed. There is a point here and there's a point here, but the thread that connects them is made of Swiss cheese. Like basically, like, there's so many holes.
It might be related.
Yeah, it might be. There's so many holes.
Yeah, we got to probably stage 2 or 3. And I told John, like, maybe we should just not, do co-op anymore. Because it was just, again, wresting control from him. I wasn't enjoying, because I was basically just sitting there.
We can both, joints at the hip, both players have control of the same camera.
Yeah.
And
even to separate, we both have to go in opposite directions.
Yeah. And we have to hope we're going in an opposite direction.
So unless I go, hey, John, I'm going to go right, you go left now, to get away from it.
Because there's no dedicated separate button.
Otherwise, we would just see us run in circles, trying to
God forbid there's more than one button.
Then you start realizing with some of these co-op how you can break the game. Mm-hmm. And we first realized this, I think it was in the second or third stage.
The water world.
The water world.
Balan's water world. Whoa.
There's this one power-up you get where you can create a bubble. You inflate a bubble under you and you can kind of float on it for a bit.
Pretty useless by itself.
Yeah. If you do it by yourself, it really doesn't help you with very much. But then we both got the power-up and we could both do it together and we could just stay floating in air.
We basically canceled out each other's bubble animations, and that allowed us to redo it in mid-air.
Over and over again.
Over and over again. So as long as we kept mashing X, we were able to essentially fly throughout the entire stage.
Skip the whole stage.
Got every trophy. We got every trophy. It was the first world we got every trophy in, because of course it was. Mm-hmm. We were basically flying. It was like, this can't be intentional. I didn't care because we were getting through the stage fine. We got a massive trophy haul. Cool, let's do this. This is also when we found out that player 2 doesn't keep their costumes.
Yes.
Because we figured,
we could just do this for every stage.
We figured, oh fuck this, we'll just do this for every stage. I didn't want to play the game anymore. I know this is what the rest of the game is. We still have like 7 hours left of the game left. I know we've seen the rest of it already. I don't care anymore. But at least we can break it. But we couldn't do that because of the way the player 2 costume thing works out.
We couldn't break it for every level.
Not every level, but there are multiple means of breaking or sequence breaking.
Sure.
Certain stages with a combination of power-ups, which is only possible because of co-op. Because even if you don't have a costume, you joint at the hip essentially have a double jump. You have to coordinate because you just can't hit, one player just can't hit the jump button twice. One player has to hit the jump button, and then the other player has to hit the jump button at the apex, hopefully at the apex of the first jump. And you get a double jump. You get double the height, you get double the length, which breaks some levels because they're expecting you to only have one kid at all times with the power-ups given to you available. However, we realized as long as one player has like a gliding power, which the game gives you multiples of.
Another problem.
I wasn't sure how to bring that into it because we're talking about like 80 costumes, like that's such grand number. But then we quickly realized a lot of these are repeats.
Yeah, it's really like 4 costumes.
Yeah, it's funny because I read that Yuji Naka in development said that he knew he wasn't going to reach 80 costumes. That is too much of a number. He was banking on 40. But he was taken aback when the devs were able to put in all 80. But then we realized how they were able to put all 80. A lot of them are repeats.
Yeah.
A lot of them are repeats. A lot of them are pretty fucking worthless, all things considered, if they're not just straight up contextual, which a lot are.
The Invisible Man.
Yeah. The Invisible Man, Foxbox. The Box. Yes. I think that was the one that was kind of infamous. I heard in the circles because it is just and we only experienced it for like less than 10 seconds after realizing.
But I literally I got it, and I literally Foxbox, and I went off the stage.
It is literally a power up that at random points will turn you into a box. You have no control over it. As long as you're wearing that costume, which you can't take off unless you get hit or fall off.
Or get another
costume, yes. You will just randomly turn into a box. And you have no control over it. You have no control of the box. It's not even, it's a handicap. But those kind of costumes are part of that setup. And you realize they only got to this number because they just made duplicates.
Yeah.
And
so
a lot of
a
them,
sheep thing you could float in. Then there's one with a helicopter,
For a while we were using the sheep one because the sheep one was pretty good. The sheep one was our first glider, basically. And then eventually we got to like the flower petal one, which was just a faster sheep.
Yes.
So it was like, okay, we're just gonna get the flower petal ones from now on. Because we realized, go back to what we were originally saying, that if we're joined at the hip, if I started gliding and he jumped, we can bypass so much shit. And we did. Like, Worlds would take us less than 30 minutes.
Yep.
To fully complete. Not fully complete, we didn't get every trophy, because at that point we were just like, I don't care, man. Like, we got enough to beat the game. We went a little over. We're a little overachiever. Yeah. Because like the final total before, just to get to the end of the game, is 120. No, 110. 110. We got 111. Went above and beyond. But we were able to get a lot of them unintentionally. We think unintentionally, because we didn't bother looking up like how they expected a single player to do all this. We just combined our forces, did a fusion, but it was like the fat fusion. Yeah. You know, it was like an unsuccessful failed fusion the entire game. Yeah.
But it makes it, he works.
Yeah, but it survives. It does survive. He does survive. But we were able to get most trophies just by breaking the game that way. And it had to be breaking the game because there were whole levels we skipped.
Oh yeah.
By this, the ice sledding level.
Yep. Oh yeah, the second act of the ice sledding level.
Yeah.
You can see like down to your left, which there were some
raindrops on the top of these tall pillars. So obviously they want you to get there in some capacity via maybe a spider power.
Yeah.
You know, but we were able from the start of the level go backwards and glide down to the end of the ice sled.
It just kind of
it just kind of goes downward level design. We were able to do stuff like that repeatedly throughout the game. Just ignore whole chunks of levels because we were able to take advantage of the double jump.
Yeah.
And like the co-op shenanigans.
Honestly, I didn't even, for most of the game, once we got past stage 3 or 4, I just kind of stopped even trying to get power-ups. Because if I got one where I couldn't jump, I was now actually handicapped to him.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't help him if he got something happening like that. And then for me to get another power-up, it's tough for me to get them. Because he's also trying to get them and survive because he's player 1.
Exactly.
So I would just stay as the kid, and he'd jump when he told me to, basically, or jump when he got the apex and jump, and just try to get.
You turned off basically.
Yeah.
It's like you turn the switch off. I'm playing the game, and he's on his phone. It's like I don't blame him, because when we aren't deliberately joining forces together to make these long jumps, co-op is not worth it. It is a hindrance. It is an obstacle. Regular levels, boss fights especially, because the camera only focuses on player 1.
Oh yeah, I could not do anything because if he turned around or moved the camera, I have no idea where my character's at.
Yeah.
And the final bosses that really was I just committed seppuku every time because there was no reason for you to be there because I didn't want to take any power ups because the ones that were there were his. I wanted him to have, and then to be able to just do anything if the camera moved at all, I didn't know. I couldn't even jump on enemies and kill them. I would jump on them and just bounce on them. Well, why am I here?
It is kind of lame, though, how most, if not all, issues with boss fights specifically. I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that the boss fights are the most interesting thing about the game.
Yeah.
Not just interesting looking, because some of them have some pretty cool designs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're all very nice-esque. There was an attempt to make them interesting via the trophy ranking. That's basically the way you put them. Because basically, you get a gold trophy, which is like the power stars of the game, by beating a boss. You're at least guaranteed 1 just by beating it. But you can get up to 3 if you manage to injure the boss with the given power-ups in that arena. Because it's like a litmus test of what you explored in that world.
Well, so every stage had at least pretty much 3 power-ups you can get between the worlds.
That you didn't have to go out of your way to find.
Correct. But in the final boss room, there were 2. There was never more than 2. So to get the 3rd trophy, you had to kind of have that extra power up on hand to be able to get the 3 trophies.
You're damaging the boss with what you already have, then you're damaging the boss with 1 power-up, and you're damaging the boss with the 2nd power-up. But that was incentive, because the bosses themselves are piss easy. They are pathetically easy. Only 1 or 2 gave us trouble. Yeah. And it wasn't because they were difficult, it's because they were confusing.
We didn't know how to
damage them. But that's the thing, even with something like bullets, you can just jump on them and bounce them back.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any, that's a violation of common sense. That's the phrase, that's the same for it.
Violation.
Why would I do that? Because I don't think the game trains you enough to do that. There's barely enemies in the game at all, too.
Yeah.
They're these little heartless. Well, they actually remind me more of the Unverse from Birth by Sleep.
Yeah. They're all the same.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the most you ever fight. Maybe a mini boss here or there, but you jump on them because they're goons. You don't really jump on the things they shoot at you. You jump on them specifically. So you're trained to jump on the direct threat. With bosses, a good chunk of them, you're jumping like Mario on their projectiles to knock it back at them, assuming you're not using a costume to expedite the process.
Which you probably should be.
Which you should be doing, if it's clear, if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. If the costume allows you to do it.
Again, there was an attempt to make it more interesting via the trophies, and I will give them that. But that kind of design philosophy needs to be everywhere, because these levels are so mind-numbing. There is just nothing to do, and most of it is pointless. The only reason to explore levels is for the gold trophies, which you can't get them all in the first place because of the limited costumes you have available. The only other thing to collect besides other costumes, which may or may not be a hindrance depending on reusability, which is not very often, because again, we spent 80% of the game with the glide and a regular double jump with maybe 1 or 2 projectiles. The only other thing to collect are those raindrops for Tims. There are no other power-ups. There's no lives in the game, that's fine. But there is nothing else to collect in the stages, which means there is no point in exploration.
And even the rival doesn't, in Journey of Dreams, when Riala would show up, and, Knights typically had Riala's number, but when Riala would do something every now and then, would give him the upper hand, and at least in the moment, and then he had to kind of come, even if he ended up getting his comeuppance later in the level, he at least had that moment where he was at least a rival. This rival, never. He's always he's literally just Balan's plaything. He just goes in, quick bunch of QTEs, and he loses again. Oh, too bad.
There's no threat to this guy. There's no threat to anything he does. You see him as early as the first world.
Yep.
He shows the mini boss. He was okay. This game's real. That's cool. Then QTEs, the rest of the fucking game. And it's not even you doing it.
Until the final boss, but...
Yeah, until the very final boss. Which, speaking of which, this is a little fun fact here. If you're wondering why the game comes with the day 1 patch, it's because of that final boss. And we're not going to show footage of it here because I don't want to give anybody seizures. But every time you hit the boss, it blinks white. That blinking used to envelop the entire screen. And it was like strobe lights. And people were complaining, people were really concerned that it was going to cause epilepsy for those that are photosensitive to it, and they had to patch that day 1, which is I think the only thing they patched, because there were, again, I think another damning thing about this game in its entirety was the demo, because people did not like the demo. It was just, there was not much going for it. Everyone got a taste of the 1-button control scheme, the limited costumes, the Fox box was part of the demo. So people were pressing them, delay the game, because this game is coming out. I think the game was about to come out a month and a half after the demo came out. It was no, you need to delay this game because it's going to get eviscerated if you release it as is. They didn't do that. I like to think that the pandemic has something to do with it. Because we're not at a point where we're going to start seeing the consequences of COVID in terms of game development, because everything that we got last year towards the middle and end of it was games that were already in development, or at least finalized in 2019. And we're just going through the final QAs and checks and balances before finally getting released. Any game that was still in development in 2020 that had a 2021 release or later, I think it'll be easier to see the repercussions of that limited workspace and all that. The being unable to delay it to get the proper team back together, or maybe they just couldn't do it efficiently online through like online work offices or Zoom calls, and they just had to release it as is. Because at some points, that's what it feels like. It feels like we're playing a beta of something that had a lot of promise.
I mean, and there's definitely polish in the visuals. Yeah. And the other thing we didn't mention yet, which I think I absolutely deserves mentioning, is the soundtrack. Yeah. The soundtrack to this game is fantastic.
The music's good.
It's very, very good.
The music's actually really good. Like the stage themes in particular were awesome. Even like the Ghostbusters main theme in like chapter 11, like it's pretty close to like it becomes its own thing like in the second half of the song.
And not the that one.
Not the Ray Parker song. We're talking about like the firefighting building theme.
Yes.
Like basically whenever the Ghostbusters were sitting
around,
like basically, it's pretty obvious, but and it's like. I'm not going to give them too much shit because I played a lot of games that aped from other scores, and it's just a thing that happens. So I guess if you're pressed for time, maybe. I'm not going to give them too much shit. The song itself still sounds good. Russ and I were bopping our heads with it.
Yeah.
Probably because we're reminded of Ghostbusters a whole bunch, and we love Ghostbusters. But the soundtrack... That's the final boss on that show.
Yeah.
The music in its entirety is great. Like, there were a lot of bangers listening to the game's score. But again, it also reminds me what we could have had.
Yeah.
Because one of my favorite pieces of music in the game is during the Balan QTEs. When he's watching him do all his shit. It is a very swingy big band ensemble. Mm-hmm. I love that genre of music for highly kinetic adventures. Mm-hmm. It makes me want to play as Balan.
Yes.
Which I cannot do. And it baffles the hell out of me. Why they did not think that was something that wasn't important. Because again, I have to stress, that's who I wanted to play as. I wanted to play as this character in the cover because he looks cool. He does cool things in the QTE. You're going to see it like 30,000 times because you have to watch the entire thing, even if you fuck up. You can't like pause the game and just quit. If you fuck up the first time, you have to watch it every single time. You're going to get burnt out by it.
If you fuck up.
Yeah.
If you fuck up even one, and by the end of the game, there might be 4, 5, or 6 of the QTE events to do. So one of them, you don't get the excellent, you don't get the trophy, and then when you come out of it, you can't go back in and do it again.
Exactly.
You have to go literally, and if that's at the end of the level, you got to go back in the level, go to the end of the level, and try it again.
It sucks.
If you want to complete.
It sucks if you get to one of those late game QTEs and you miss the first prompt.
Yeah.
Because now the rest doesn't matter. You have to get excellence on every prompt to get a trophy. And that goes for both the QTEs and the mini games, because there are also mini games like the bowling, the golfing, the baseball.
That's completely superfluous.
Yeah, superfluous stuff. But you have to get perfect scores for every round to get one trophy, which is ridiculous.
That's insane.
Like, it's absolutely insane. It's not just monotonous, it's repetitious to a degree, and it's all over the game. In fact, we said that, I think, 3 times already, which is in tone with the thematics of the game. Just repetitious. We're going in circles, as this game is. Yeah. We're going in circles like that train.
Yeah. So every time you get another...
I just like how we find this new point to talk about.
By the way, so every time you have to get a certain trophy quota, if you will, to unlock the next set of 3 stages. So obviously, 12. So 12 total, so you do it, 4 times. But it's the same train animation. First time it happens, it's kind of cool.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. You're heading back to the hub world, and but it's the exact same one every time you unlock 3 new places, and you get your new trophy quota, and you kind of it's like.
But why do we even get in the train? Because it's not like we're going anywhere.
Yeah, we're going back to where we're going anyway.
We're circling around the same area over and over again. It's like, but not the different worlds show up. But it's like I thought it was gonna be one of those like we riding a train to a new hub world that has like a new amusement park for Tim's or like anything exactly,
different.
Anything.
But
it's literally the same fucking cutscene. Only now it's like world number 7, 8, and 9, and they're out of order too, which is like this.
Oh yeah,
too much.
So you would think it's like it's like a clock, 12, 1, 2, 3, going around. No, it's like 1, 7, 4, 8, 9. But then it'll be 8 and 9 next to each other, and then you're like they're like 2. I'm
what happened?
Why? Who did
It's very chaotic. Again, this is not something that I think would be approved if it wasn't bottled down by the pandemic and also thing. I think the pandemic had a big part with how this game was deemed sellable, I guess. Profitable, or whatever. Well, it's not profitable, it's tanking. Big time. Like, people hate the game. I think the fact that it's $60 is also a damning point. This is gonna be like budget bin in maybe 2 months. I give it that. And it's a shame because I really wanted to like this game, but there is just no fucking reason to play this game at all. There's not even a morbid curiosity, because the thing is that the game is not awful. Like, you can see what they had in mind.
It's perfectly playable.
It's playable.
It's playable. And if you have, I mean, the one audience I think there's better options. There's way better options. But the one audience you can definitely get away with this for sure is younger kids.
It's designed for a younger demographic.
It's made for that
much
demographic, is clear. And that's who I wanted.
There are so many better games that are designed for a younger demographic.
Play Lego something.
Like any Lego game, like the obvious one is Minecraft and Roblox. Yeah. You know, Mario, Sonic.
Yeah.
Those Knights. Are perfect. Yeah, play Knights.
Yeah.
But
at least you'll get to be the fun character.
Far better games for that similar demographic. And again, I can't even call it a morbid curiosity because the game is just boring as shit. Like, the game is so fucking dull. I don't like it when a game wants me to put it down, not because I'm angry, but because I don't care. It started with the curiosity, then ambivalence, then super ambivalence, then frustration because it kept going.
And then day 2 hit.
And then,
and then we had to keep going. And then we got 7 hours to go.
And then we got to hour 2. I'm glad we did it this way, because originally I was just gonna make a standard Johnny versus. I know that some probably would have liked the Johnny versus, a regular one where I had a script and all that. I don't know what the hell I talk about. Because I felt there'd be more. I got more out of Billy Hatcher. Let's put it that way. And Billy Hatcher had a similar bare bones plot. It had its own issues, which I went into the Johnny versus video. You can watch them in there. But if I made a standard video from this, it wouldn't be more than 5 minutes. The lackluster stuff. I'd spend more time in the developmental issues and the behind the scenes of who made the game, which is like a minute at most, than I would be talking about the game. And the game, like, because there's nothing here. There's not much to talk about here. But with, like, in a podcast format, with a fellow Sega Knights contest. Well, I don't want to say fellow, because I'm not really into Knights as much as he is. There's more I can get out of that conversation to really emphasize, especially from us, because I like to think that we're one of the few on the YouTube circle that got the co-op experience.
Yeah.
Because everyone's probably just doing the single player experience.
Oh, yeah. Who the hell's going to join for this?
Exactly. Exactly.
Here's the question. So what do we think the developers could have done to make this a better game? I think play as Balan. Basically, just if you wanted to make a Knights game,
I feel that
make a Knights game.
I don't mean to cut that off. That is an entirely different conversation. And we're already going over time here.
All right, fair.
But what we have now is just not worth it. Again, there is just no reason. $60, like, that is like the balls on these people.
Sat through 50 minutes.
$60.
How dare you?
Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I just made a round 2 for A Hat in Time a couple of days ago. That is a much, much better game. So much better. And that is at base $30. It's $5 additional for the DLC chapter. So you're paying $40 at max. Still worth it. And then some. Fantastic game. Go buy that instead. Go buy Freedom Planet. Go buy Sonic Mania.
Go buy Nights in the Dreams on Steam for $10.
Yeah. Mario Odyssey. There are so many better games out this. And I just want to say to Mr. Yuji Naka, I'm sorry. I have a lot of respect for the man because he was there since Sonic's inception. He is the man responsible for the way the Sonic games were back then. He was a programmer. The physics engine, all that. The reason why Sonic flows so well in those games, that's him. I'm always going to respect the man for that one.
For sure. That man gave me my childhood in games, basically. So, I mean, that is why I wanted this.
I think this is one of the first games that he's directed. I'm sorry. Like, this is a stinker. It is an absolute stinker. And I hope he continues his endeavors in Square. He's probably never going to do a platformer game again after this.
They won't let him.
They won't let him. But I still wish him all the best. Pick yourself up, wipe the dirt off. But fuck, this is a flop in almost every sense of the word. And that pains me. because I don't want it. I didn't want it to fail, but it did.
Yeah.
But that's all the time we have here for today because we're already way over time and I don't want to take up too much of your time. Again, we're doing this setup because I am currently in the middle of my move to Georgia and I only have my iPhone camera and my laptop for editing. Next time I will see you, I will be in my new station in Georgia and I will get back to the Final Fantasy Marathon, which again, thank you guys for watching the first 2 videos. The feedback on it has been tremendous. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it as much as I am making those videos because I've been having a fucking blast making those videos. And it's really great when I have a lot of passion towards it and you guys can see that. And I can't thank you enough for tuning in and giving me the time of your day, sponsors and all that sort of shit. Thank you very much for your time and company. And Russ, as always, thank you. Thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah, it was fun.
You know, because this was... one of the final things you see in the game is like it was a fun adventure. Citation needed. I think it needs to be put at the end of that sort of sentence. But with you, I think we got a lot of laughs.
We did.
For the wrong reasons, but we got a lot of laughs.
We got some brokenness in there, for sure. And if you guys have anything for me too, I give content to a group called Great Geek Refuge. It's all free. We do articles, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. If you ever want to hear anything else from me, you can go there for it.
Where can they find that at?
thegreatgeekrefuge.com, I believe. We'll put a link in
the description.
Yeah, but we do everything there. Articles, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. I do a series of articles and stuff too for games and whatnot. And I'm sure just because I just had this experience, I'll probably write about it too. So.
And though we don't really upload anything from there anymore, I heavily implore you guys, if you like our dynamic, you watch the Let's Plays we did on SGB. We did Knights, we did all the Knights games.
All the Knights games.
We did Clockwork Knight, which is a Saturn game.
Yep.
Like the only channel on YouTube that did a Clockwork Knight Let's Play.
Yeah. We did a stall.
We did with a group of us. Another Saturn game. We did Super Castlevania 4 run, which was one of my favorites.
And we had a couple I've joined you guys for a couple others too. Yeah. Like we did Too Many Games. We've done a bunch with you guys, and Scott Pilgrim.
If you like the John Russ dynamic, we encourage you to watch those Let's Plays because those are some of my favorites.
Oh, they're fun.
I just love the chill conversations we have between us. That's all the time we have for tonight. I will catch you guys in a couple of weeks with the next video. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, thank you all for watching. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Wear a mask if you decide to go outside. Get vaccinated if possible. Have yourselves a fantastic night and take care.
Well, that killed my mood. That absolutely just killed my mood. I am not watching any more reviews tonight. Oh, I get what people are saying. I understand it. I see the flaws myself. But, jeez. I definitely just need to take a break for tonight. It's not going to be fun editing that, but thank you for watching anyways. And depending on how I edit this, you may or may not see more of my reviews of Balan Wonderworld. I mean, I'm going to make more reviews, but considering how much that one drained me and how I had barely anything to say throughout it, it might end up more in one of the later videos where my burnout is completely clear with these reviews. But thank you for watching, whatever happens. If I even upload this at all. So, until the next time I brutally put myself through something I know I shouldn't have done, this has been We To Play. I got nothing left to say. So I hope you enjoy your day. Take care out there, and I will catch you later.